Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dear Hmong Woman segment of our Hmong Woman podcast. This is a small segment where individuals can submit their stories or questions for advice to us to read to our viewers. So we are excited to present to you one of our submissions for today. I do want to let you know it was a pretty long one, so we're just going to do a quick summary of what the entire story was, and then we will begin to discuss it. But before we do that, I'm going to reintroduce us. My name is Emily. I'm one of the co-hosts.
I'm Ariel.
And I'm Jochi.
And we are going to start by reading the submission. So again, this is just a summary of the submission from this viewer. They identify themselves as he, him. They're 25 and they live in the US. So here is the summary. Their relationship was with their high school sweetheart, and it was a long-term relationship that was made and marked by both love and challenges. And despite initial struggles and a period of separation due to emotional cheating, they reconciled and eventually married. However, even during the marriage, after buying a home together, learning to love gaming together, they let their underlying issues of miscommunication, and trust break down their marriage. So key points were their initial struggles, which is the difficulties of separation from college. He went to college far away and she did not. She emotionally cheated on him, and then that created trust issues within their marriage. What seemed to be a stable marriage was actually not, because again, a lot of miscommunication and unresolved conflicts. A lot of that was the two of them not blaming each other but themselves for their relationship disintegrating, her blaming herself for the marriage cheating during their relationship, and him for not trying harder to reach out to her and make an effort in their relationship. Essentially, she connected with a friend online, and it triggered feelings of insecurity and jealousy, especially when he found out that they were meeting up to hang out. And then due to this, she just couldn't take the distrust anymore and asked for a divorce, which is official and has led to him reflecting on his own role in the relationship's breakdown and seeking to understand more about his partner's perspective in the relationship. All right. And I want to read 3 direct paragraphs from the submission, which is that he says, I don't blame myself or her for how we showed up in our relationship. If we knew better, we would have done better. We lacked the language, knowledge, and tools to resolve conflict and didn't focus on self-improvement or therapy. After my divorce, I started to actively learn about relationships, attachment styles, and fighting styles, which I wish I learned in high school or throughout our relationship. I didn't fully grasp the concept of validating someone's feelings or holding space for pain, and on a lot of other concepts as well. I've been reading a lot of self-help books and listening to a lot of relationship expert podcasts, but being Hmong in the Hmong culture and the way Hmong marriages and relationship works is very different compared to the American culture. So I wanted more Hmong insight in podcasts. That's how I came across the Hmong Women podcast. I wish more couples, especially Hmong men, would actively engage in learning about relationships. I grew up surrounded by divorcees who often blamed their partners without self-reflection and never changed to become better. I'm aware of the dark reality of the divorce statistics. It's disheartening to now be a part of that statistic myself. The fear of falling in love again scares me, like what if history repeats itself? The uncertainty is unsettling. Yet despite these fears, I'm committed to learning and researching extensively about relationships. I'm determined to build a solid foundation for myself and any future partner. Despite the potential for heartache and hurt, I believe the journey of love and growth is worth it, and I'm striving to ensure that my next relationship is built on understanding, communication, and mutual respect. So, what are our thoughts, ladies? It kind of sounds like he's asking about a few different things, which is how do we talk about engaging and learning about navigating issues in a relationship, conflict resolution, and proper communication, self-reflection, and how you played a role in your relationship, but then also just the Hmong aspect of divorce as a Hmong man, reflecting about their culture and how that played a role in their divorce. Because that's what he said. He was looking for more Hmong marriages and relationship podcasts. And that's how he found us.
Okay.
Go ahead. I have nothing to say. I've never been married or divorced, so
I've been both.
I have.
I have also been in the same situation, not emotional cheating, but physical cheating, and also decided to stay. So I get that part. I feel like I can relate in a lot of ways. The divorce part, the cultural aspect of it, the wanting to learn and to grow, being afraid of moving forward, but how do I make sure that I'm healed and ready, the whole shebang thing. And I appreciate you submitting in this to us and feeling comfortable with having us handle this on our platform. I do want to apologize that we did not read everything word for word, but
we did in our.
I really truly hope that we were able to touch on the main points of your story. We did individually read it to ourselves as well, so I just wanted to put that out there. I want to say that I'm really proud of you of taking accountability for what had happened in the relationship. I think it can be very easy after such a big relationship and having that end to automatically turn to the other person and say like, they're absolutely at fault. I did nothing wrong. And being a divorcee myself, I do interact with a lot of people who share similar stories, and I see how people kind of cope differently. And I love that you are wanting to take healthy steps to learn about your attachment styles, your triggers, your love language, and doing more research on how you can be a better, healthier partner and to move forward into a new relationship. So that's the first piece. A couple things I noticed here in your story, but it just reminded me of when I was with my ex and I had chosen to stay, is you said that you guys rebuilt trust from what had happened and rebuilt a connection, forgave each other, but never fully forgave yourselves. She hates herself a lot for what had happened and you blame yourself too. And to me, it reminded me of when I made myself believe that I forgave what had happened in order to stay in the relationship because I said that we were able to rebuild trust. The reality of it for me was that I knew for a fact, and this really solidified me moving forward into new relationships, that I cannot forgive cheating ever. Cheating happens. I can never rebuild that trust because with my ex, I thought that I was able to trust him again. And I found myself doing things that I told myself growing up I would never do, that I would never be suspicious of where my partner is going, what they're doing, because I don't want to have that between us. I feel like it really made me overthink. And if that's something that you currently struggle with, and hopefully you don't bring that into a new relationship. So when I came to realize that I was like that with my ex, that's when we finally divorced and moved on. And I was also afraid that I was going to take those same qualities and feelings into a new relationship. So I started learning just the way you did. I read the attachment book and tried to figure out how I interact in my relationships. I did a lot of reflecting on the person that I was in that relationship and what I could do better as a person and then also as a partner.
So I just wanted to say I appreciate your vulnerability. And I also wanted to say that cheating in no form is ever okay. I think that was one of your previous questions when you first sent in this submission is this considered emotionally cheating? And from reading your submission and going through the paragraphs, it sounded like your ex-partner planned a trip and she met up with a man that she was talking to online. So maybe that's a gray space that you'll never know what happened unless she gives you that sort of closure. But if you believe, I mean, I think it's just so hard because I think at the end of the day, if she didn't tell you she's going somewhere and you have a gut feeling and things weren't good at home, I mean, we can all sort of assume that something happened, right? Whether it was just her secretly meeting him at a cafe or her doing something worse. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it really is up to you to come to terms with what happened. But for me, at least, a lot of the times when stuff like that, my previous relationships have held me like still and I lose sleep over it, I really had to come to my own conclusions and my own sort of resolutions. So I'm just putting that out there that it could be seen depending on how you're feeling and the facts that you have on your end as a form of emotional cheating. But yeah. I will say that I realized that you had mentioned that you guys were dating since high school and that since college it was very difficult and toxic. And then when you went to university and she didn't go to university, that's sort of when things sank. And that led to her emotionally cheating. When I stepped back and thought about that from a third person point of view, I sort of first went to thinking, well, when you date someone for a long extended period of time, it is very hard to navigate those different seasons of love. Because when you're dating as a teen, right, like that's completely different when you're dating as like a 20, 30-year-old. So I will just say that I understood where you're coming from because there are different seasons to every relationship and it's very hard to navigate when you're with someone for 10 plus years. There are obviously, the way you explained it, there were times when you would spend more time together where you wouldn't, where your relationship wasn't always the number one priority, and maybe those things sort of led to the downfall of those. Another thing I wanted to talk about was understanding your triggers and communication. So I give props to you for understanding that you also played a part in it and that you're realizing now that so much can be solved with communication. I realized in your submission that you said something about how you wanted to put in boundaries and you wanted to talk to her about it, but you didn't want to come off as insecure. And I think moving forward, the best thing to make you not seem insecure is by communicating clearly what you need and your expectations of your partner. So I'm just putting it out there that being a part of or being in a relationship, a lot of things can be solved with communication, and it's also learning about what your own triggers are and knowing yourself best, because no one else is going to be able to know those things and people can't read your mind. So you seem to already be putting in that work, which is really great. But I do agree with you that, you know, we do live in a culture where consistently the woman is consistently being blamed for the divorces, and we aren't able to do the internal work to look at what we did to be a part of that divorce. I also wanted to say that you had mentioned that the fear of falling in love again scares you. Like, if the fear of falling in love again scares you because you're scared of what if history repeats itself, and that the uncertainty is unsettling. I think, as someone who hasn't gone through divorce myself, I can say that, you know, I've been through plenty of breakups, which isn't the exact same thing. But I do feel like you do need to trust in yourself in order to not make the same mistakes again. Because once you have that and you understand that full-heartedly, you'll be a lot less scared to repeat your mistakes, and you'll also understand that you can do better. And I think one of the hardest things that I've learned in therapy is that when you make a decision on anything in life, you can choose what you lead with that decision. So for the most part, in terms of relationships and friendships and other things like that, big decisions that I make in my life, I choose to lean into courage and not fear. So just know that you can have thriving relationships, you can have a future thriving relationship, but know that if things go south, you have your back and you can trust in yourself to make it through.
I agree with you that it is really unfortunate that we have this mindset in the Hmong culture that, like, you can't go through the divorce process unless you followed all the right steps and you've proven yourself to be innocent before you can then get the divorce. I just think that like drags out so much hurt, and oftentimes it lets the person get away with their actions rather than holding them accountable. So I do believe that we can do better as a culture instead of sitting here and saying, you know, oh, yeah, just let them cut ties. No, you need to forgive them. Give them another chance. They can do better. If they do it again, call the elders, and then the elders will hold them accountable. And if they do it again a third time, then we can talk about divorce. Like, why does it have to happen that way? Yeah. So I do agree with you that there's a lot more that we can do, because there's people that I know that I wish were not together because they just would be better off if they were divorced for themselves and their family. But those are my thoughts.
Yes, you do have to trust in yourself first, because I think the scariest part for me in thinking that going out there, yes, you don't know what is out there. You don't know who's crazy, who's not, who's gonna lie and who's not. But I really feel like if you build enough trust with yourself, you sense those things so early on. And people talk about red flags all the time, but there's these things that seems like it's common sense and it's not in the dating world, where they're like, you didn't see these red flags when you're not fully in tune with yourself. I should say, when I was not fully in tune with myself, it was really hard for me to be able to see that in other people, that their intentions were not pure, or that they had other intentions with me. And I honestly really set myself to be in these very difficult situations. It took some time to heal, took some time to figure myself out and build trust with myself, so that if I went out into the dating world and I were to talk to someone, if they aligned with me. One thing you brought up that both these girls mentioned earlier was the idea of communication, and that you don't want to seem needy and insecure. And I feel that communication is needed, yes. And I used to always talk about this, and I talked about it in all the previous relationships I was in to the current one I'm in right now. And it's also learning how to communicate, how you communicate. One thing I learned from Ariel throughout all these podcast episodes is saying, this is what it sounds like or looks like to me. So you know what communication looks like to me. And so with my new relationship, I do talk about things that I'm insecure about or I'm uncomfortable about. And I try to approach it in a calm manner and allow for them to have that space, and also asking them if it is okay for us to have a conversation right now on a heavy topic. And it's not just like we're in the middle of cooking and then all of a sudden, so by the way, the other day, so it's approach and yeah, you don't want him like, or them on the toilet and they're busy doing something and you're like trying to multitask, because you do want space for those kind of subjects or topics to talk about it and to figure it out. I think choosing the time is important. Figuring out how you're going to say is also important. And the only way you can navigate through these storms is to actually do it. And taking the feeling of, I feel like I'm needy and I'm insecure, to not talking about it at all, I feel will likely build up more problems than there needs to be. So one of the things I appreciate most in my current relationship is being able to do that, and really having those conversations very early on first of all, our emotional intelligence, if we do align in that sense first. Because if we did in all those things, quite honestly, I don't think I would have moved forward with the relationship, because to me, it's not red flags, but it would have told me right away, like, those are things that I don't think I could deal with in the future. So as you're moving forward and deciding on whether you're ready to take on a relationship, consider for yourself first, what do I see myself in the future? What kind of partner do I envision myself with? And then also, are you a good fit to that partner? Because I feel like being with someone who's insecure about themselves, the problem is more so them. They're always going to feel insecure about everything I do, about every single one of my actions. Like, are you cheating on me? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Because they have their own insecurities. And I've really learned how to live on just the facts of things, because I am an overthinker. Emily knows this. It's not that I don't overthink still. I still do, but I try my very best to hold back on that and evaluate, okay, is this a dochi moment of overthinking, or are these the facts? What are the facts? What's been said? What's been done? What is like actually here, and what is all the other stuff that's just filling the air because my mind took it somewhere else? That has saved me a lot of time and honestly has done a lot for, I think, my current relationship, because there are moments where I'm like, this could have gone really ugly if I had just snapped the way I used to. That's the first piece on that. The divorce part, I agree with you that it can get really ugly. In my personal opinion, I have my reservations for my ex and him alone. Okay. I don't love that I was cheated, and I think I will always be hurt about that. But I always try to make it very clear that he was not a bad person. I know others disagree, but he has his goods, he has his bads. That was our relationship. And when I talk about this, I'm saying that is my perspective on him. I'm not going to tell anybody else to like or dislike him because of my personal experience with him. And same as you, we were young, we did not have the right resources, or we also didn't know how to communicate, and all these various factors. But that still doesn't mean that the hurt isn't there. Cheating took place, and I'm still hurt by it. I can never forgive it, which is why I'm not with him anymore. And I bring all that up because my divorce process was very, very confusing. I was mad, angry, irritated all the way through because I felt left out of the loop when I felt like I should have been the main person in the loop, because I was the person choosing to get the divorce and I had no idea what was going on with my divorce. And I also feel that, yes, oftentimes when I hear about divorces in our community, they're always, it does not have to be so ugly. Why does it have to get so ugly before you can separate? Like, for me, I really just wanted it to be, let's talk about this. We obviously don't align anymore, and let's go our separate ways. And I don't love that in the community, you have to have a solid reason. Like, did he beat your ass up 5 times and then you can leave now? Did you document it? No, it's just you no longer love each other and you now go your separate ways. And of course, American, like the system and divorce, everything, it's come a long way too. And for being a Hmong woman, it's even harder. As a Hmong man, I'm not saying it's not hard, but I will say that in my personal opinion, it's not as difficult as it is for a woman to go through that. But I can still share with you and empathize with you that in general, it's not fun to navigate through. At the end of the day, no matter what the culture has and how they view it, I feel that if you remain true to yourself, it's not hard to navigate through being a divorced person. That just because maybe I will always have love for my ex-partners because they were a big part of my life. It does not mean that I'm in love with them or want to be a part of them like that, nor do I want to continuously always smack talk on them and think of all just the bad qualities. And I don't like that with the elders I've been surrounded with, and when the idea of divorce comes up, everybody tenses up like we're going to go at war with one another. I am okay seeing his family and still knowing that they were good people and that we can still be cordial with one another, that we're still humans. What happened between myself and my ex-partner is between myself and them. It has nothing to do with everybody else, as they were not all involved in our relationship like that. Of course, if they took it into their own hands to do additional stuff, that's up to them. But that's how I view that piece. I do applaud you in recognizing that and wanting to change that. I think the only way that we can go about changing that is, it's just your actions. People are nosy in our community. People want to know why you divorced or who did what. Honestly, those are not things that anybody needs to know if you don't want to share it. It took me a long time to want to publicly share my story, and I'm doing it because for me, it had a lot to do with the fact that when I was going through it, I also didn't feel like I had resources or I didn't know where to go, who to talk to. I felt very alone doing all that. And it's not like you can go to Reddit to figure out Hmong divorce processes and group for help, like who can I talk to who's in the same age group as I am going through a young divorce. It was like I felt so lost and unsure of everything at that time. So I think the best way to go about it is just being upfront about it, not feeling like there's a negative stigma with being a divorced person, because what's happened has happened. So for me walking today, I'm okay saying, yes, I am a divorced person, but I'm not letting that be my main label. Like, my name's Dochi and I'm a divorced woman. That is not who I am. It's a part of who I am, but it's not the main piece of my character and myself. That was a lot in a couple of seconds, but the biggest takeaway I want you to have from this is just be authentic to yourself, because truly I feel that resolves a lot of things. It resolves the idea of whether you're going to be good enough for your partner and if you're going to choose the right partner. It resolves the issue, I believe, of, you know, the community, the culture piece, the how do I respond? You respond as you respond based on what's authentic to you. And if you can figure out yourself and what values are most important to you, I really feel like everything else is really easy to like either block out or to keep.
All right. Well, once again, thank you to the individual that submitted this for us to talk about. I hope that you were able to walk away with some sense of movement, or you feel like this added to your, I don't know, toolkit, coming from Dochi, who's really experienced with this process, and Ariel, who's, you know, relationship expert advice giver here.
I don't know about that, folks.
But again, we really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us and your vulnerability. And if there are any other viewers who feel like they can relate and have any other advice they'd like to share to this individual, feel free to plop that in the comments. I'm pretty sure that they'll be looking at the comments for whatever your thoughts are. And thank you for joining us. If you want to submit anything to us for review, we try to get to them as quickly as we can. We have a filming session once a month, but we're taking a break in the month of November and December. So we won't be recording then because we're preparing for season 2 in January 25. So any Dear Hmong women submissions that we have not gotten to yet will be done next year. And yeah, we really want to thank you for your love and support. Again, pop into our link tree to find the submission link for this, as well as accessing all of our other social media platforms. Again, like, subscribe, and follow. And have a great rest of your year. Bye.